Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Magical Witchy World TV. I am Starr Ravenhawk.
And I am Rhonda Alin. And tonight we have back with us a panel discussion. Here we go.
It's a magical witchy world.
All right. So tonight's Magical Witchy World panel is discussing the topic of initiation and lineage in the magical community. Their misconceptions and anything else that comes with it. All right.
Thank you all so much for joining us. This is a huge topic. It's a really broad topic, so we really appreciate all of you joining in and bringing your thoughts, your opinions. We will also be following the chat. So if anyone has comments in the chat, we'll try to bring those into the discussion.
Yeah.
So with that, I'll hand off to Starr.
All right. So we'll begin with a brief introduction from each of our panelists, beginning with Phoenix Coffin Williams. All right. So Phoenix, if you can give us a brief discussion bio about yourself, please.
Yeah, so my name is Phoenix Coffin Williams. You can call me Reverend Phoenix or just Phoenix for sure. I am a licensed clinical mental health counselor, and I am the first priest regent of the Correllian Nativist Church of Wicca. That happened on March 3rd. So that's a little bit about me and how I spend my time.
All
Therapy.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you. And Christina?
Hello, I'm Christina Wilke-Burbach. I am a transpersonal psychologist, a witch, an occultist, and a high priestess in training with Starr Ravenhawk through Wiccan Family Temple.
All right. Thank you, Christina. And Brian Cain?
Hello, my name is Brian Cain. I'm an Alexandrian witch. You can tell that because I have a glass of wine in my hand. I'm the high priest of the New Orleans Coven and helping to open a coven in Salem of the Alexandrian tradition as well. I'm the author of Initiation into Witchcraft. I found my other.
Yay! Found it.
Fabulous.
That has the picture. I have a hard copy as well. And with my husband, Christian Day, we run shops in Salem and New Orleans, as well as two festivals, the Festival of the Dead and the Witches' Ball in Salem, Massachusetts. Well, three festivals now. Hex, and then WitchCon, which we just had, and then HexFest coming up in August.
Thank you. Thank you. That's awesome. And Kenya T. Coviak.
Hello, my name is Kenya Coviak, and I'm going to do this because I can't see. It has not been good. Okay, so I am from Detroit. I'm a magical practitioner. I am a witch. We use that word because we don't have the word from being in the enslaved generations here to properly call what I am. So that's the word we're going to use. I am also an initiate in a couple of traditions, one of which I'm not going to get into at all, but I do practice Detroit conjure. I do practice a bit of hoodoo, folk magic, more of an all-around cunning woman and herbalist than anything else. I run the Michigan Witches Ball. I just had a chapter released in Llewellyn's Book of North American Folk Magic. I would also like to make a statement here regarding that book that in error, they listed me as being involved with the Detroit Hoodoo Festival. And while it is a wonderful event, I am not associated with the Detroit Hoodoo Festival. That was an error on the part of the publisher. I am associated and the founder of the Detroit Conjure and Folk Magic Festival. So I just wanted to clear that up.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I'm not going to forget, Rhonda, Alin, who's here with us, if you can give a brief bio.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. I'm getting a wicked feedback.
Yeah, there's a feedback.
Others aren't.
Kenya, if you have two things on, muffle, put one of them on mute, please. Thank you. Awesome.
So what I was going to say, so yes, I am here. I am the other half of Magical Witchy World TV. I am a practicing witch. I have been a part of a couple of traditions. Assembly of the Sacred Wheel is one. Cabot Kent Hermetic tradition is another. And I am also a contributing author to a book coming out by Llewellyn next year. But have been working in this world, in this realm. I would say, you know, we all come to it from various paths, but this has been part of my world since I was a small child. I have an oldest brother who is part of the what do I want to say? Egyptian pantheon of gods. So that is pretty much where I came out of. But my practice is primarily in divination. So I also teach a lot of tarot, read, teach, etc., etc. That's my story.
Awesome. And myself, I'm Starr Ravenhawk. And let's see, I founded Wiccan Family Temple, WFT Academy of Pagan Studies, where we have a degree program and ordain our own people who's gone through our programs. At least they have that opportunity to do so. And I run Witches Fest USA, and we have a lot of wonderful people. A lot of you guys here too. So that's great to have. And we try to offer as many things as possible to the community for education and for just having fun. And I think that's it, right, guys? Oh yeah, and I run charmbystarr.com. This is where I make my money. All righty. So this is great to have all these opinions and thoughts and from everyone. So we'll begin with some of the topics that we were.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have one of the first questions I wanted to ask, and I'm opening the floor up. But you know, if you have something that you're itching to start with first, just please raise your hand, and we'll grab you first. But when you were first looking to step into this world, step into the world of your practice as practicing witch, however you choose to define yourself, what was it that drew you to your particular teacher, to your particular tradition and lineage? What was it that you were looking for when you decided to pursue your training in the craft?
All right.
And yes, Christina, yes, please go ahead. That hand went up.
Nerdy, dorky Christina with a billion degrees wants to go first. So
yes,
to
please.
me, like, the teacher is very important. I've taken thousands of classes with a number of different teachers, and to me, it's really important that the teacher is original in their thought, is not afraid to be controversial, is knowledgeable about a lot of different topics, and doesn't just regurgitate bullshit that other people have passed on and heard from other people. But they also have to have a big, bold personality and like stand behind what they're teaching. So I've taken a lot of classes from a lot of people, but when it was time for me in my journey to move more from high magic and ceremonial magic to witchcraft, the universe intervened and I found Starr. And I don't even really know how I found Starr, but to me, Starr is a really amazing teacher. And, you know, not just because you're here hosting this show, but you're a really amazing teacher because you have a lot of knowledge in a lot of different areas. And I think that's dangerous.
I'm
well done. Thank you.
Yeah. You also like encourage your students to not just accept information, to ask questions and to do your own research and seek other answers. So I find that very admirable, like knowing that you don't have all the answers. And any person who thinks they have all the answers is just full of ego. So I really admire that in a teacher.
Oh, thank you. All right. I'm glad to hear that. Anyone else? Okay, so
same subject?
Yes.
Oh, I thought we were all going to go. I don't know the rules yet. That would be a very, I think I'm the one with feedback and I don't know why.
Okay. So something you have on that's separate, yeah.
Is it coming through my laptop? Yeah, maybe that helps. There, seems to have gone away. Can you hear me?
There you go. Okay.
Right. Fabulous.
Oh no, something, it was playing off my phone. I've got Apple, so I think
yeah, it does that.
On. Well, anyway, it'd be a very long-winded answer if I answered the whole thing, because my first teacher and my first teacher was when I was 17 years old, and it was not Alexandrian. And my first initiation was by that teacher, and it was witchcraft. But we're going to focus on what I'm involved in now. And that happened much later in my 30s. They are in sync with each other, so they complemented each other. Still friends with that teacher. And for me, when I was 15 years old and I started reading books about witchcraft, and when I'm talking about witchcraft, I am talking about the witchcraft revival of the 1950s specifically. Doesn't mean I'm not including other things. I, read all the books by the original craft elders, the first public witches, which were a good 40 years before anyone was doing it in America, officially. And I never thought I'd meet any of these people. I mean, most of them are dead now, but I remember getting my first copy of What Witches Do, and it had Maxine and Alex on the cover, and I read the book and I thought it was amazing, but I thought, well, this is in black and white. These people are in England. They're, probably 2 clicks from being dead. I'm never going to meet any of these people. Fast forward in my path of initiation, not only did I become Alexandrian, but I've circled with Maxine Sanders, who's one of the original elders of the craft movement, who is still alive, thankfully. So for me, it was, that's a long journey. But my reason, I think, was because I always admired the Alexandrian tradition. And I really was interested in being a part of the original lines of succession and having access to that original information that you cannot get from published books, not even today.
Right. That's true. That is absolutely true.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Phoenix? Yeah, go ahead, sweetie.
So for me, growing up, entering the path at, 9 years old, what was important for me and a teacher was accessibility, able to talk to, communicate with children, and able to communicate like spiritual lessons in a way that was appropriate for my age group. That was essential for me.
That's great.
That's so key.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it sounds as though a few of you are mentioning or referencing that you were pretty young when you came to this. Yeah. That's fabulous.
Yeah.
Kenya, I know you're back, but we can't see you.
Yeah.
I hope we can come back to you in a second because
she
we'd
likes
to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, she goes in and out. Okay, so hopefully we'll hear from Kenya. So Rhonda, what about you in the meantime?
I would have and this is something that I just saw in the chat as well. So I'm going to jump on that. Daryl, thank you. Talk about self-initiation. This is an excellent point. So I delayed joining a tradition for years and years and years and years. For 2 reasons. One, because I was a little concerned that I was looking for one that I felt a lot, not to come in, I would not feel shy, but I wanted to feel embraced by. And that was something I don't want to say shopped around either, but I was very clear about what I was looking for. I wanted something, a place where I would feel, there was history, there was lineage, yes, but there was also this very broad scope because, as we know, I don't look like what many witches look like in the world that most people, consider a witch to look like.
Right.
So I wanted to be I wanted it to be a very inclusive community. So I started, and I was a, I don't want to say self-initiated, but I was on my own for many, 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 many years. And then finally I did start studying with, and I joined Assembly of the Sacred Wheel. That was my first tradition. And then also joined Cabot Kent Hermetic tradition. But yeah, it took a minute. It really did take a minute. And one of the key things that I was really focused on was, are these traditions that I feel I can be a part of, learn from? And it had to be more than just, and I hope I don't offend anyone. It had to be more than just the theater of it all.
Yeah.
Because I had been around too many experiences where there was a lot of theater and I was missing, or I wasn't feeling the substance. So in any case, that's my story.
Is Kenya back yet, or should I step in now?
Yeah, I think you'll have to step in. I don't see her showing up yet.
Okay, all right. So for me, I to this day will never initiate. That's not part of me or who I believe, what I believe in. I took classes with Laurie Cabot, but when it got to the part where the third degree where you have to move up from there into initiation and stuff, I was not interested, so I stopped there. Um, I'm not a joiner. I'm not big on joining into things. I think I'm too much of a what you call a throwback. Um, initially, oops, there will be feedback again. Okay. Initially, I don't think that we had initiation for witches at all existing. They were more solitary, and that's the way they practiced. I don't think many people have emailed me and messaged me over the years about, do I have to be initiated to be a witch? I'm like, no, you do not. That is based on people's initiation is based on traditions. Whatever tradition they have and they want to have you and be initiated into it, then that's what they do. But it's not something that was there initially. Initiations were more of the high magicians, the masons, things like that. And yes, some people say back to the I forgot the name of the group from way back, that some witches did that. Again, they took it from the high magicians and stuff. So being that throwback, I'm going before those all those times. And to me, I like to be old school in that way. So there were no initiations. I don't think that people should be forced, because a lot of people feel that because they've said that to me. I have studied initially very young with the Cabot tradition as well. Didn't want to go any further. And others I've learned from over the years. And I'm not interested in being initiated into anything at all. And I probably will die. Never, never initiating into anything, because that's not me. I'm not that person. So I think people need to be able to realize that they can do as they wish without having to join anything in particular. Yes. Christina.
So I would like to expand the definition of initiation, and I wonder if that will change your viewpoint. Because I know as your student very strongly about your opinions about initiation, but like as a transpersonal psychologist, which is where I came from before I entered the world officially as witchcraft, realizing I've been practicing witchcraft for a long time, but just never utilizing that name. In transpersonal psychology, like we focus on individuals who are having what we would consider like a spiritual emergency or spiritual crisis, which is really the universe, for lack of a better word, initiating you. So, and I also like have a degree in anthropology and also come from an anthropological background in which, initiations are really rites of passages that are marking like the old you transitioning into a new you. Mm-hmm. So I believe you can be, so I think we're talking about being initiated by like an elder or a high priestess, but I also believe, like in the chat, you can self-initiate. I believe the gods and the goddesses can initiate you. I believe strongly the universe initiates you, and to me, that's legitimately what shamanism is. Like, controversial thought on like people taking shamanic classes. But
I think I'm the only one here that I'm sorry. No, see, to me, initiation is no matter what. Is the definition of the word is into something or into a group or into a, whatever. If you're speaking about the gods and goddesses or deities or whatever it is you want to call, it's you deciding to work with them or them deciding to work with you. It's never an initiation. It's an acceptance of this is what's coming into you and this is what you're part of. Don't need anyone. To me, that's a very much all a part of this whole concept of, the priest in the Catholic Church or the minister, and you need a mediator. I don't need one. The whole idea to me of witches and witchcraft is that we don't need to have that mediator. We've always been able to do this ourselves. So yeah, that's going to always be my take on it. Yeah, I think you wanted to say
I'm just going to, I think Kenya wanted to, we haven't heard from Kenya and Brian. I see Brian's hand is up
so
also.
We'll go after with Brian after Kenya. Okay, go ahead, Kenya.
Yeah, please.
Oh, hi, I'm back.
Okay, good.
So here's the thing. It really depends. I can say that I first entered a formal practice and study of magic at 13, like literally within a week of turning 13. Before 13, it was verboten. No. Everybody around me was like, no, we'll teach you folk ways. We'll do stuff in front of you. People at the Lincoln Branch Library were like, here, read this. Instead of that, the hierarchy of demons, here, let me just slide this Scott Cunningham towards you. But no, none of that. Once I turned 13, a very gentle, very kind, very formidable Sikh gentleman put me on the path to a witch, and then I learned from him. But I wasn't in my first initiation of a sort into a study, quote unquote, study group, which required blood, but we'll get into that another day, until I was around 18, 19 years old, because I had to be able to work in certain states of dress with no one going to jail. But we called it a study group. And then much later, I actually underwent initiation into a different kind of group who had lineage. We had to know the lineage. We were drilled on that lineage so much, but it wasn't about the validity of your ability to wield and connect to magic and spiritual energy or entities. It was more along the line of, this is the body of knowledge that you should know if you are seen and recognized by others in this particular group of being of this particular level. And I don't like saying level, but this particular group inside the group, so that when we're speaking the same language. When I was in a cult, yes, I was in a cult. When I was in a cult, but it was a Black nationalist kind of cult. It's a different kind of cult from the 30s. There were levels to what you knew depending on where you would initiate to. They actually have a level called being an adept. So certain things were taught to the main group, and certain language would be spoken around us, and we didn't know what was going on until we moved through the different stages, learned about astral projection, yada, 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 what we're not supposed to do, what we are supposed to do. In my growth, you could say I kind of initiated them, because I'm not teaching you baneful plants, poisonous plants, if I don't know you have a foundation and you are properly prepared to be able to study those things. And then I'm in another study organization, I'll put it that way, that I will never leave, ever, like ever. And that's because there are certain things that you say in certain spaces that mean that you will not break faith, you will not break fealty, because you deal with certain discarnate spirits. Some call them gods, some call them other things. And you take oaths to say that you will always be loyal or filial, to your new chosen family. So I don't really see it so much as trying to say I'm a valid witch or not, or a valid practitioner. It's more like an undertaking to say, almost like a guild to a point, that I'm not going to discuss certain things with people who aren't prepared so they don't get hurt. But that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah,
Good point.
absolutely. Brian, you had
Good
something
point.
else to add to
There's
that?
been so much that has happened. I could probably go on now forever. So I'm going to just get some of it out. Number one, Rhonda, you look like a witch to me, but I have an Egyptian brain. So you look like a very authentic witch to me. Got to get that out there. To the original point of the subject, self-initiation, do I believe in it? No. I think it's disingenuous and it doesn't go along with language. However, I do believe in dedication. I've done self-dedication. I started out solitary. I put something in my book about people who are seeking a group or seeking initiation, put it out to the gods. I absolutely do not think initiation is required. I do not believe that anyone should proselytize initiation to anyone. I was taught that if somebody asks me if they should be initiated, I should tell them no, they should go run screaming, because only a crazy person would do it. That being said, initiation is something that I asked for. It's something that I chose for my own reasons, and I don't have any regrets. When we talk about the subject of initiation, you have to take that outside of witchcraft, because there's different topics going on here. And obviously, we don't all have the same definition of the word witch necessarily either. But in initiation itself, it is a part of our magical heritage. across the globe. That doesn't mean you have to do it, doesn't mean it's necessary. This is not a salvation religion. They're not going to ask you at the gates of the afterlife, have you been initiated? You know, that's not what we think initiation is. It's a magical spell that you cast in witchcraft and in other magical traditions. In some senses, it is entering into a community. For me, it was entering into a priesthood, you know, and I'm a priest of the goddess. And I think that that to me is what is most important about witchcraft in the world today, is the fact that we have the only priesthood of the goddess in Western civilization that has been there for a very long time. So I think that holding up the goddess and the priestesses, again, within a global priesthood, I think that's extremely important. Now, to the subject of whether or not initiation was historically a new thing, to that I must disagree.
Okay.
And the reason why, just because I don't disagree with anything any of you said except that one statement, and I have written a book about it. Witchcraft is older than witchcraft. And it wasn't the magicians that started initiations, it was the pre-Christian priesthoods. And it went on in Egypt, it went on in Greece, it was in the mystery cults that went throughout Rome and all of Europe. When Christianity was just rising, the most dominant initiatory cult of the goddess that existed on earth was the cult of Isis. And it went from Egypt to Britain. And these people worshipped a god and a goddess, had seasonal festivals, worked the arts magical, and did a lot of things that witches do today. The modern witchcraft revival, in my opinion, is a reincarnation, if not a continuation in some way, of these old mystery cults.
Right.
The witchcraft that I'm involved in is a mystery cult. If we go into the historical word witch, then you have to go through what Christianity says about it. And it absolutely says it is a cult of Diana. And then later on, it says it is the cult of the devil. Sometimes fairies are thrown in there for good measures, maybe a couple spooks. But it's always religious in nature. And the Christianity and the church and the records and the trial records and the mythologies all talk about initiations in the form of pacts or rites or oaths. So historically speaking, there is way more that leans towards the authenticity of witches being associated with a religious idea than there is it just being magic. It just being magic came about with colonialism and Christian white men in the 1930s from Britain going around the world and calling everything witchcraft, which does, Kenya, lend some credits to some people needing to use it because words were lost, you know, and that's a whole different topic. I'm not here to tell somebody who's a witch or who's not a witch. But I know in my craft, initiation is a ritual that you can go through if you're that crazy.
Yeah, that actually, when you mentioned that, because not majority, and the initial magicians were from Egypt.
Yes.
So
well,
yeah,
I mean,
so that's
everything we do magically today is from Egypt.
Say again?
Right.
Almost everything magically we do today is from Egypt because the Greeks and the Romans got it from them, and what the Celts did and what the Saxons did, well, that wasn't written down really. Other than folk magic. We all have folk magic throughout. The magic of the people survived everywhere.
Right.
Precisely. And I want to grab Phoenix real quick before we...
Thank you. Some of the things that I'm thinking about right now as the conversation is unfolding is the idea of like the priestly or the clergy class, like as a group of people that served a function in a community or an organization, in the way that like initiation just kind of like sets that tone for being able to participate in acts of service in that way as well. And I'm also totally here for the conversation about the spirits providing that trauma or like that crisis in life to like prepare for a function that you're going to serve in your life. And if you don't want to call them initiations, if you just want to say that the universe kicked your ass and now you're a spirit worker, for sure. To what degree do some things become like semantics, and like to what degree do we add something to the conversation for the sake of like our own like mask?
Right.
It's where I'm kind of moving in this conversation right now.
Right.
Excellent. Thank you. Kenya, I saw your hand was up too. Right. Yes,
Okay,
please.
so I agree 98% with most of everything that we're talking about. But I will say that in my personal studies, and again, I'm not a cultural anthropologist, so I can't say that everything I'm about to say is peer reviewed. So take it with a grain of salt. But I do know that certain practices that have been attributed to witchcraft also can be found in ancient Sumer. And I'm looking backward, and I'm really beginning to in the softest way possible, in the softest way possible. I really believe that there are some dread differences between, as what some people are calling the priestly caste or the priestly path, and the magical path, and how they've been split. Because I know that in one of the groups I'm in, and this is going to be the first time I talk about it publicly, and I'm not going to talk much about it, you don't get to a certain point until you die. Now, it may not be, obviously it's not permanent, but there is a spiritual and a bit of a physical taste of death for you to initiate. So I'm not really sure if that tracks for everyone, but I do know that allegedly dealing with the, I don't want to say dread, but the feared forces, you had to have that cross into death in order to be completely and fully of service. And you know what? I'm getting too close to something, so let me just chill. I'm gonna chill right now.
No,
No, but
understood.
you
Understood.
said
That was excellent.
that's true. All right, Christina.
I just want to grab something.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Just real quick. I just want to grab a couple comments in the chat, and I see Kristen Day is here. Thank you. Hey, Kristen. Comment. I once heard someone connect the Summerlin to Sumer. So there's that. Daryl, thank you for the insightful and informative history. And yeah, thank you all for being in the chat and joining us.
Yes,
Thank you.
yeah.
Christina, excuse me.
As someone with an anthropology degree and comes from an anthropological background, Kenya, I do want to peer review your comment that I agree with you. I largely agree with you that if we go back, and there's evidence through cave paintings, at least 100,000 years that the concept of shamanism, whatever we want to call it, has existed. And literally a shaman was someone who didn't say, I want to be a shaman. The universe chose them. They had like a psycho-spiritual death and rebirth, and literally died and were reborn again with a foot in two worlds. So I agree, Kenya, that we do have to die a little bit, and in order to come back with certain abilities and gifts, and to really understand and to be that medium between the spirit world and the mundane world. So I mean, I do agree with what you're talking about, Kenya.
All right.
Right on.
Awesome.
Thank you. So we have a lot of questions here and not a lot of time left, believe it or not. Starr, do you want to grab our next question?
Oh, right. Okay. The next part, and we kind of went into a lot about the initiation part there with that, but we'll come back to more of that. For part of going into the lineage part and heritage, that's another hot topic for a lot of people. They have been told, unless you're a lineage with so-and-so people, you're not allowed to teach, you're not allowed to different things. And they have been told so many things that I'm sitting there going, just forget all that. Just move on with your life, and you don't need to listen to them. It's up to you. It feels to them as if they're being invalidated. And I don't think any of us have the right to invalidate anyone's practice or anything at all that they're doing, because again, we're not there with them and what they do. So to me, I don't think it matters as much to me. Each person that you learn from doesn't really matter, whether it's books or whatever it is. It's best, of course, if you can have it in person. We've all studied with many different people in person. You gain a bit of knowledge and wisdom from them. And that's in a way part of your lineage, but not technically, because they want you to get it from them entirely, or whomever it is, to be able to claim lineage. That is a misnomer for me, because Again, I've been on that other end with it. But anyways, I would like to have some of your input with that in terms of lineage and heritage, that kind of a thing in terms of witchcraft. So anybody wants to go first? I saw that hand kind of flutter there.
Okay, Christina.
All right.
And then Brian.
All I'm going to say is, I guess I've been in 3 different lineages, maybe a bit more in a way. And it's like being in families, I mean, the lineage is what it is. Without the training to go along with it, I think it's useless. But I'm very proud, my current lineage. I'm very proud to stand on the shoulders of those who come before me. And I'm very proud of the work that they have done throughout the years to make things like this possible. So I'm proud of the people I'm connected to now, but I've been connected to people that I'd rather not be associated with as well. So it's kind of like being a family. You could be in a good one and you can be in a bad one. Same is true with groups. I mean, we are talking about human beings, but
Right.
I think that it's misunderstood that a lot of the conversations we hear about certain things, about groups that are abusive and things like that. I mean, some of you may not be aware, but I'm pretty plugged into what's going on in the world, owning shops and things like that. I mean, you hear everything. Mm-hmm. And also the people I've known. So I've heard tons of horror stories, but it's usually that Jack and Jill in a small town who don't have any real lineage and made it up that do the most horrific things. Most of the sexual abuses that I know of in covens aren't by actual lineage. I don't know of a single actual Gardnerian Alexandrian coven where there was anything worse than infidelity. And I do know of quite a lot of infidelity, but I don't know anything about people forcing that sort of thing. It's always the people who make it up and who don't have any oversight, because when you're in a global tradition, if you're pulling things like that, your peers are going to call you out and rake you across the coals. Mm-hmm. Like there's no way you would get away with it. You just would not. It's these mom and pop things that do the biggest abuses, and they've had no training. They've had no oversight, and they've never really made real oaths. So I want to throw that out there. But there's good families, bad families, good groups, and bad groups. And we've all had our own experiences that brought us to where we are now. And we all have a conversation that is important. But I will say one thing, Starr. Never say never. It's a danger.
For me, with initiation, never.
I used to say the same.
I know Christian said that. I know, but I'm gonna repeat it till the day I die. As I'm going into the box.
But I don't think anyone needs it. I think it's a choice that you're making. Just like no one needs to work the arts magical.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I want to comment on something Brian said about your teachers and the people who came before you in your lineage, especially if they're prestigious and reputable. I mean, we're all humans and we do have ego, whether you want to admit it or not. So it does make us feel good when our teachers are admirable and well respected and recognized. But I also think there's a fine line between riding on other people's coattails, especially if you don't have the skills and the knowledge and the ability to back up your the lineage that you come from.
Mm.
Well, most of my elders are people you would have never heard of. I'm proud of them because I know of the work that they did behind the scenes. Obviously I'm magically related to Alex and Maxine, every Alexandrian is. But I'm talking about my whole lineage, which some of them are people you'll never hear of.
So someone said something, and the reason I'm thinking of this, so I teach a lot of classes, and someone who took classes with me was saying, "Hey, I took classes with Christina to try to get into an event as a vendor, as a speaker," and I'm like, that just made me really think about flying in coattails for other people.
If I wanted to fly in coattails, I'd talk about having a glass of wine with Lori Cabot on her birthday.
And I come
I'm not lineage to her at all.
Right. I do come from one lineage that I was in before Starr, and the teacher specifically said, "You are not allowed to say that you studied with me because I did this work, and you're not allowed to take credit. Just because you're studying with me doesn't mean shit." So I don't know. And I guess coattails might not be the right word to say, but just because someone's your teacher doesn't, I think, necessarily mean anything at the end of the day if you can't back up your own.
Well, it does in the sense that if you're not a retarded student, you're going to have learned what they taught you. You know, if you go to Harvard, your professor is going to be better than somebody at your local college. I mean, that's just the way that it is.
Yeah.
So certainly having a prestigious teacher with accomplishments means you've been given an opportunity. Whether you take that opportunity and make the most of it, well, that's up to you and your capabilities.
Right.
So just because I'm watching the clock, and I'm sorry, I'm getting some feedback. I don't know.
Not me this time. I don't know who it is.
It's always me whenever I take my phone off mute.
Oh my goodness! Sorry, Kenya. I'm gonna jump. There's something that and I love the conversation, y'all. Thank you so much. And I just want to say, Christina, you have a fan in the chat. Just
oh, Christian, I'm a big fan. Thank you so much. I'm blushing actually when I saw his
It is fabulous. I want to jump to a topic that before we run out of time here, that's been really something that's been close to my heart, is how some of the younger generation think about initiation as gatekeeping. And I want your thoughts on this. I mean, we have a lot. I mean, look, I don't mind sharing, y'all. I'm 60 years old. I've been
I am a proud gatekeeper.
Okay.
Slam that gate shut.
No
Slam it shut.
Okay, we're getting that feedback again. Sorry.
Your thoughts.
Okay.
Share.
So what are some of the thoughts? Who would like to go? Is Kenya raising her hands? I can't. Okay, Phoenix, go ahead.
Okay, so you're going to get some feedback because I'm talking.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
Slam it shut. Slam the gate shut. Put a turret up there. Okay? Because sometimes you have to control some stuff. Okay, I got loud. But you cannot, there's certain things that we learn in certain traditions, or even if you're not in a formal group, just a lax group, you cannot just put it out there for all and sundry. I mean, really, I've learned a lot of stuff and I've passed a lot of stuff on to my grove. But only a few of them are ever allowed to say they studied with me. And only a few of them got certain things from me. Certain things I was taught and I learned. It's like the beads of a chain, like the beads of a necklace. Okay, some of y'all got that joke. Okay, here, I'm going to leave it alone. I'm going to put it out there. But put it out there if you're picking up what I'm putting down. Anyway, but it's like the beads of a necklace. And one comes after the other. You cannot jump ahead. It's like trying to jump into calculus and you haven't learned basic math, basic arithmetic. You can't do that. That's why you have people running around giving people pennyroyal tea, telling them it's an aphrodisiac, putting lily of the valley in there because they thought it was pretty. I'm not making this up. Then they get mad when you roll up in there and you say, oh, this is so nice, at the little flea market thing. And you say, who taught you? And then you either going to find out they learned from a book, which they didn't read very well.
Or TikTok.
We're not talking about that, please. I do not have enough time to fix. I can't fix that. I can't fix it. There's not enough duct tape in the world. But the thing is, and I'm not looking down on anyone, but it's rampant. It's like a bunch of rabid goats got together to teach each other from a monitor from 1958, and it's unplugged. But anyway, so but I'm sorry, that's harsh.
No, appreciate you. Thank you.
But they can't do it. You can't just give out knowledge to people who are not ready for that knowledge, who cannot understand the knowledge, who do not know when to apply it, when not to apply it. That's like giving somebody your diary and saying, go for it. Make a movie. It's ridiculous. It's absurd. And if you're calling me a gatekeeper, then let me sit on up on top of that gate and I will build it from the first twig you can find and light the fires with some birch wood. In love.
In love.
Okay.
Thank you. Phoenix?
Okay.
Yeah. So when I hear the word gatekeeper, I think about a few different things. And I want to start off by saying that, like, I actually might be the youngest person here. And I am someone who participated in initiation and lineage, and I am a joint head of a global tradition that does initiation. And so when I talk to people in my generation, about initiation and gatekeeping, what I tell them is that gatekeepers are essential, especially for a community that has ever been a marginalized community, because not everyone who wants to come and be a part of the community has the best intentions for the community. And there has to be people who are empowered, who are wise, who knows how to apply knowledge and wisdom and power to make sure that they're going to keep that community safe. That is what I believe is one aspect of gatekeeping. And it's something that has been done not only in the witchcraft field, but also in the gay Black world, because we're not about to let everyone come to our Vogue. Not everyone is coming to the ball. We got gatekeepers. You might not even know who they are. They are there. And if you are upset with gatekeepers, it's probably because you got gate kept. And it was determined that you were not supposed to be
Gate
here.
blocked.
This does not mean that you can never be here. This does not mean that you do not belong. This does not mean that you might not ever have a home here. But it means that the energy that you stepped up to with was not vibing at the moment. And the ones who were designated to make that determination made that determination. We can all fix ourselves. We can all find a new gate to try to approach. We can try to come up with the toll that we need to cross the gate. We could try to figure out what it takes. But when it comes to this whole approaching the gate thing, nobody asked me to come to this gate. So if I get here and I don't like what it takes for me to cross that gate, that's my problem. And I don't get to project over that community because I didn't have what it takes to get in there when they didn't call me to begin with.
Right.
And that's something that I have to tell my peers and other people. You chose to come here. Nobody called you. Go sit your ass back down if you don't like it.
Well said.
Pray about it for a minute.
Yep.
If you want to talk about it, we can keep talking about it. Next time before you approach a gate, do a reading. That way you know beforehand whether or not you even need to be there.
Well said.
Yes.
Tell you.
Absolutely. Anyone else?
Thank you.
so much, Phoenix.
What he said.
Yeah.
What he said.
Yeah.
Yes. What he.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about gatekeeping, I think of regular schools. You've got colleges. You've got every section that you go through is a gatekeeping that happens.
Yeah.
You have to go through different levels. We do it with our school. We have different levels for different things. There's a curriculum we put out for everyone to see with the first degree, but the rest of it they will never see because they were copying our things verbatim, like literally taking our curriculum and copying it and using it for their things. And I'm like, so we don't do that either. So everyone has to have a gatekeeper. You know, you want to protect all the work that you've done and all the things that you're doing. And, you know, no matter what you want to say, the entire lifestyle of people in this country especially has done nothing but gatekeep, especially in this country. They will even go so far as to put up giant gates with spikes on the top to make sure your ass does not come right scaling over it. So the few that do have, their things that they're gatekeeping, all the power to them.
Right on.
Well, there's too many people that don't want to do the work.
That's the other part. That's the other part. They want the easy fix, or the big Mac fix is what I call it.
Magic wand society. Boom, you're better. Give me a pill. So people have been conditioned to not do the work and be fucking lazy.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, you said it there because our first degree program, just as an example, takes a year, right? A year and a day. One of the groups that copied it verbatim took it and said, we can do it in 8 weeks and you become a witch then, or first degree then in 8 weeks. And someone who is, Christina, if you can vouch for this and the way the levels that you go through, there's a reason for each degree that we have and what we go through. It's a lot of work. And we tell people this. We lose a lot of people because it's a lot of work. It's commitment. It's everything that's involved. It's not a Big Mac fix. It is not easy.
It's a lifestyle.
You have to earn it. You have to earn that. So
and it's a lifestyle too.
Yes, it's a lifestyle. Yeah.
We're not just witches, by day.
Yeah.
It's a part of
on the show.
Who you
are.
are.
Just on this show only here. But no, it's a lifestyle. You got to do the work. And that's that Big Mac fast food, give me a pill mentality that everyone has. And, and I hate saying the younger generation because there's older people too.
Yeah,
there are people in the program with Starr that I took that were like in their 60s and like just couldn't cut it because they didn't want to do the work and they want to get there now. But there's I've seen weekend-long first degree witch programs. How can you become first degree in a Saturday and a Sunday? So...
Yeah. And I think that the distinction for me is between those who are young coming to the practice at whatever the age, so they're young to the practice and or young, biologically. Either way, well, we can have the distinction. That's the distinction you were just making, regardless of your biological age. There are people who are young to the practice who still are, can I do this in 48 hours? Okay, great. It's the newest fad. Thank you. Oh, Kenya. Yes, please.
Okay, I just want to. What is the new phrase? Circle back. Okay, I want to circle back to something
Yes.
real quick. So all these colloquialisms. So the thing is, there's another very important part here about that gatekeeping, and that is aptitude. You want to be around someone who has been around long enough for the wisdom to be able to discern a seeker's or a practitioner's aptitude. Everything is not for everyone.
Yeah.
Maybe they were in the wrong place and you need to help them find the right place. Or maybe they're trying to learn something and they're kind of not understanding why they're having trouble. And it's because it's not their aptitude.
Yeah.
And so having the wisdom to say, well, you know what? Maybe divination is not your forte. Maybe healing arts is your forte.
Right.
Maybe dramatic liturgy is your forte. It's, and because they've seen this before, you don't waste 6 or 7 years being very bad or mediocre at something when you can excel at something else with just a bit of advice. I just want to put that out there.
Yeah.
Or go.
That's a sign of a good teacher, though, Kenya, where you know where someone could do better somewhere else.
Yes.
And you say, like, hey, you know what? You're not the right student for me. Why don't you go check this out? So
We're having that feedback.
No, I'm just mean. I'm just ornery. I'm ornery and I'm middle-aged and the crone is hunting me down by my door. I'm just ornery.
Well, you make a lot of really good points, though.
Yeah. This is true. This is true. But Brian, sorry, you wanted to say something and you entered in there.
Did I?
Yes, you did. You started to say something and we kind of went over you a bit. So come on.
What was the topic on? Sorry.
Yes, we're still with the lineage and heritage.
Oh, the gatekeeping.
No. We went to the gatekeeping. Sorry.
He said it so well. I didn't have anything to say after he said. I was totally. He said it in the way that I was thinking it in my head. That's the way I would have said it, but I loved it. I suppose it's something I've seen happen in the last couple of years, and I do think it's a bit of a generational thing, this gatekeeping thing. And to me, it just sounds ridiculous. So I've just always not taken it seriously, and it is what I mean. Christian and I are both line crossers, I suppose, but I'm also still just upholding what I believe in and what I practiced, and the people in my circles and in my community, that I'm actually interacting with. So to us, gatekeeping is a duty.
Even
we see the broader thing, the broader thing of witchcraft. In a sense, witchcraft as a religion to me is extremely important. Yeah. I shouldn't say in a sense, it is extremely important to me, the religion of the goddess. I realize some people use the word witchcraft as just a magical practice, and that's fine. That's not what we're here to discuss. But for me, it's a religious belief.
Yes.
And the goddess is in it. And magic is one of those religious beliefs. Like, I absolutely think you cannot be a witch without magic.
Right.
So I'm not devoiding it of that process. But I think, in other traditions, it's the same thing. You're going to have this, you're going to have your caretakers, and and every group has its natural guardians. And they're the ones that never like anyone.
Right.
Not till they prove themselves, and you have to have those people. So I think it's, and it works. It works. I've made very few mistakes. And the ones I've had, I think were still transformative for the individuals.
Right.
Thank you, Phoenix. I see your hand is up again.
Yeah. So I was also thinking about gatekeeper and like its two components, or like maybe two sides to it. So we've got like the one glorious side, where there's the protection and, keeping the people safe and keeping people out. And then maybe the shadow component, or the other side, where it becomes a derogatory term because we're also responsible for feelings of rejection that come when we have to say, I don't think this is right for you.
Yeah.
I don't think weakness is right for witchcraft. I do not think weakness is right for witchcraft. If you're so easily offended, you're too weak for the craft.
Right.
And I know that sounds mean, but I don't think witchcraft is for coddling people.
Yeah, it's not.
No.
Especially as a leader. If you're a weak leader, then you're not really a leader either.
Yeah. And it becomes this, it's the, even the word gatekeeper in a sense for something like this, I think that's a new construct that I'm now hearing. I didn't even know it existed until I saw the question that came in with it. So a lot of things are being taken and twisted into to me into different construct of names that they want to I guess to put it down and be derogatory about it in a particular way. And preservation is a big deal, isn't it? I mean, aren't they gatekeeping to make sure that certain things does not go, animals do not go extinct, or plants do not go extinct? I mean, there's a reason for all of that. And if that's what they're calling gatekeeping, preservation is what I call it, And
I'd rather you not waste your time for 10 years in something that is not for you. If you are supposed to be somewhere else, I would like for you to find where you need to be.
See, and all of that is true, because I have had to tell people, I'm sorry, this is not the place for you, go on with your bad self kind of a thing. Or I shouldn't say that. I tell them nicely, and, and I tell them, they need to find somewhere else. And then there are those that up in the middle of things, when they see how much harder it gets, they go, then they start putting us down and saying, this is whatever. And but you've taken the classes all along, but now you reach a difficult part that you can't seem to learn. And suddenly it's something bad or dark magics or whatever it is. And I look and I say, okay, no problem, hun. And I think they expect me to kind of say, no, you should stay. I'm like, no, go on with your bad self. I think you're cool. You do that. Go on out there. Do what you got to do. Become that big bad. You know what I mean? And I move on, because I really don't have that time or inclination to get people over that hump. Because if you cannot, after a few years, take yourself over that hump, then this is not for you. This is not the place for you to be. They need to go find their own place somewhere else.
We have a bunch of other questions, some really, really good questions. We're almost at the top of the hour. So before we wrap it up, we're still in this gatekeeping topic. Is there anything else that anyone wanted to share, particularly about initiations, lineage, traditions, anything in particular that you wanted to share before we actually have to wrap up our conversation tonight? Yes,
I would rather people make your own tradition before you lie and try to claim somebody else's or claim somebody gave you something. Make your own and stand up in it and admit that you made it up before you mislead anyone else.
Hence the going with your bad self.
Thank you.
I guess I'll say
I agree with that entirely. I agree with that. And they do tend to blame you, right, Christian? I mean, Brian, they have a tendency to blame you as they go. It's their fault or whatever it is,
Oh, as far as what?
And when they reach tough patches of where you have to say, I don't think this is the right place for you.
Well, I mean, I've had worse things, like, unfortunately, there's an entire, well, probably lots of gardenarians don't like me, but there's an entire line of witchcraft that despises me, because people have posted the question to me, do I think they're legitimate Alexandrians? It's the Chthonian Alexandrians. And I say, no, they're not. They're not. In my mind, they're not. Their initiation is invalid as far as being Alexandrian. Like, if they want to be Chthonians, they've essentially done what Kenya has said. They made up their own tradition, but because one of them once sat on Alex's chair or whatever, they try to claim that label, and it confuses people, because people will think it's Alexandrian, and it's not. The way they're practicing is not Alexandrian.
Right.
And they claim they've got our stuff in there somewhere, but that's the contrary to being Alexandrian.
Right.
If you're initiated Alexandrian, you're trained everything you need to know at the first degree to be an accomplished and powerful witch. There's not any sort of hidden thing. We have mysteries, very few secrets. And the other stuff is for people who want to lead covens. That's why we give the first and second degree, or second and third degree separate from the first. We do the second and third at the same time, because we don't use it as a hierarchy thing. They're magical rites to enter into a priesthood and to become a leader and a teacher in it. But they're also magical journeys for the individual. So it's not about rank so much. a first degree.
Mhm.
I know Alexandrian first degrees through an Alex's coven who I consider elders to me, because they're
Mhm.
accomplished witches. They've got the history and knowledge. They just didn't want to lead a coven because they didn't like people that much.
Understandable.
There's that.
So,
Listen, I want to get
candid
your
truth, absolutely. Nobody needs to be a priest or a priestess or any other kinds of magical person unless they want to. And if you really are called to that, you don't have a choice.
point. Well said. We are at the top of the hour.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask any last second comments, Christina, Phoenix, Starr.
I'm good. I'm good. I
Go
just
on
want
for
to
like
thank
another
everyone.
couple
Awesome.
hours. This is great, y'all.
Yeah.
We really
Yeah,
could. We
yeah.
really
I
could.
want
We
to
can't
thank
thank you
everyone
enough.
who all your input, all your wisdom, and everything else that you guys shared with everyone from every angle. It's all wisdom because you're telling people things that are relatable to them, no matter what people say. It's relatable to different people in different arenas. So this is all good, and we
Absolutely.
really appreciate it. And if we have to come back another time and do some more on it, we'll do that, and we'll let you guys know
We'll do
because
more.
we tend to listen to the feedback. All right.
Yes, and we have a lot of feedback and thank you all. Penny, thank you for the comments. Daryl, Kristen, everybody, thank you for the comments in the chat. We really appreciate it. You guys, it has been a fabulous, fast,
Hour.
full hour. We want to thank you again for joining us, and hopefully we will all Starr. We should come back and do this again.
Yeah.
All righty. Before we say goodbye to you all, I'm going to just shoot a word from our sponsor.
Yeah. All right. All right. So tonight we also wanted to let you guys know that we have next week coming Laura Tempest Zakroff that will be with us. So I hope you guys would come back on April 14th to check that out.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. We will see you all next Friday
Yes.
on the 14th for another Magical Witchy World TV.
Yeah.
Thank you all, and we'll see you next
Oh,
Friday.
and don't forget, please. Okay.
Don't forget
To like and subscribe. Yes.
We'll see you next week.